Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the build. We're now in part 5 of our 1350 refit. As you can see, we have nacelles out. As you can maybe also see, we have a little bit of shaky cam because that thing broke. The mounting point just collapsed and fell off. I wasn't doing anything, it just fell off. Really sucks. That's not my tripod. That's my friend's dad's tripod. And none of you are going to tell him, please, because he can punch through walls and he's scary when he's angry. So we won't tell him. Anyways, nacelles. These are some ample nacelles, as Scotty said. Or rather, Simon Pegg in the 2009 movie said, that is a standard ruler. Right there. And that is a whole lot of leftover. They're maybe 16 and a quarter to 16 and a half inches. My work thing here is 16, and it goes right over the edges of either side. So yeah, they're pretty big, and I'm super excited. We have all of our assorted parts. Not all. We have most of our assorted parts. I don't have a few of them out because they're wee, tiny little parts, and I don't want to lose them, like the crystal there, the warp crystal, or whatever that thing is. There's a little part that goes in there that is not out, and there's a clear piece that goes in for our RTS thrusters here. We have a nice clear warp grill, and we will be having to do some work to this. We're going to have to be sanding, masking, all that jazz. I have been basically just clipping these off the tree and Zactoing off anything that needed to be Zactoing off. A little bit of a flash on some of these parts, but really not bad at all. The only thing that I'm disliking here, well, there's two things I'm disliking about these. One is that these come in two halves, but I really can't see any other way to do it and put the clear piece in for the thrusters. So that's kind of a minor nitpick. The honest nitpick is that these things aren't separate pieces. These things should be separate pieces so that you can easily paint this and then just put them on the top. They were so nice, and as you can see, that line right there where you're supposed to paint a different color, they did nice stuff like that, but then they are going to force me to mask this off and paint the inside here, which is not so nice. And you can see how much light transfers through there. We're going to have to put a lot of black on this thing right here. So looking over the parts and doing some thinking about lighting. First things, these holes are not pointing where I need them to point, so we're going to have to reorientate them. We're going to have to do some hardcore test fitting and assembly of the secondary hull and pylons to figure out exactly the angle on the hole that points here and the other hole that points there. One of them I want shooting forward so that it hits the hull, and the other one I want shooting at a 45-degree angle towards the secondary hull to light up my pendant area, just because I love doing that. The other thing here we have to think about, as I said, these are two halves. These go together. This is where our thrusters are. Our thrusters are lit up. So we are going to have to get a very small SMD. Luckily, I bought a ton of them. But we're going to get one of those right in there. And what I'm thinking is, this piece right here has a lot of work to do because it's two halves. And I don't want it to look like there's two halves. We got a light to put in there. We got some clear to put in there. I sort of kind of want to assemble these as a sub-assembly, as a separate piece, and then go in when I'm done and put them into place, which I think I can actually do. And the same thing for this thing. I think I can paint this separately and just when all is said and done, just plop it into place. There's some pieces I can't do that with. Like this little guy here. This guy needs to go into place because I need to fix the edges. The edges around here show. You can see it's a separate piece, so I need to putty those. These things I'm probably going to paint separately as well, and I'm just going to paint this main piece right here, the black, I think more than anything, because it overlaps when you put it inside the nacelle. There's an overlap, and that would just be a pain. Actually, I know it's a pain because I did it on my 1537 over there. So we'll get some black on here separately, mask that off, and then assemble it. Most of the painting I'm going to do when this thing is fully assembled. The majority of it. I can put masks on various things like the grill and the little chevron that goes in there. The warp crystal can go in afterwards, I think. I think you just plop it in the top here. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. So I'm going to get to sanding on these, and we're going to be thinking about our lights and where we're going to put them. We need one big light here. We need a couple of lights up here. We need our warp crystal light. I definitely want to put that light in there. That's the one regret with my 1350 or 1537 or 600 or whatever kits. And I didn't put that awesome light up there. We definitely want to put those spotlights on, as I've already said. And what else do we have here? Our thrusters. I think that's it for the lights for the warp nacelles, you guys. Grill, RTS, those, crystal. Yeah, that's it. So, anyways, I'm babbling. I'm going to get to work on all this, sanding this down with some 300 and then 800 grit. And I'll be back once I start getting the lights all set up. So, be back in a second. Alright guys, we are in paint. We're knee deep in the paint. I went ahead and I sanded this guy down with some 320 grit to prep it for paint. I also gave it a nice warm bubble bath to get all the fluff from my sanding off and any mold release agent that happened to be on here. And now we're getting some coats of flat black on here. I still have a few more to go. I put 2 coats on here. I've missed a few areas. See that? I missed these guys. So you can actually still see light through those areas. Let's turn off this light. So yeah, you can see light through those just because I missed that little area, even back here. So we're going to have to hit those. A few more coats going on here. This area was a little bit of a bare. The recesses around here are rather deep, so I gave this a big old shot of paint. So much so that I thought it would do the whole cracking thing, but it didn't. It stood up to that, and you can't really see a variant between that and the other area. You can see a variant right there. That's because I went in with my thumb and said, wait a minute, you can buff this. So yeah, you can buff this flat primer fairly nicely. It looks kind of cruddy on here because this is just I don't care about this. I've just been hammering on the paint. I got a little bit of an orange peel in there, but it doesn't matter. You'll never see it. So I don't care. But yeah, you can buff this. All you car guys out there, you want a decent flat black to buff? Just this Rust-Oleum primer. I mainly use Rust-Oleum. I've heard horror stories. Thankfully, they've not really happened to me. So this is just the flat black, the 2 times. Couple bucks at your local store. This is the important part. I did prep this. It also bonds to plastic, so we should be getting nice stickiness. Stickiness? Yeah, stickiness to our plastic. It shouldn't come off very easy. I mean, if you go in with this active blade and start doing this, you know, cutting it, then it'll come off. But otherwise, it should be fine. The only time I've ever had an issue with, get out of there, Rust-Oleum, is with their clear, and that's because A, I didn't allow it enough time to properly cure, and B, I kind of sprayed it a little thick, so the paint just kind of self-immolated. It just bleh, and turned into a mess. So don't do that. Do this. So yeah, I have a few more coats of black to put on this. I guess that's the point. I also masked off my grills, the backs, because I don't want any overspray when I go in to spray my black. We're using a jet black on here. I suppose you could use a NATO black. I think jet black is a little closer to what I'm seeing. You could argue that. That's just fine. That's what I'm using though. We still have to mask in the little recesses in there. I do have a little bit of masking tape that would fit fairly well into those little grooves, but I'm pretty much out of it. I've got very little left. So I went and I ordered some Tamiya tape. That'll be to me in a few days. It's coming from Illinois, thankfully, not Japan. So I should get that in a couple days. This is actually the testers. It's not horrible. I just think the Tamiya is light years ahead of it. Again, this is not bad if you're masking a flat surface kind of thing, no complex curves. Not that this is a very complex curve, it just goes whoop. But I just prefer Tamiya. And this is a little more rubbery, I suppose, than the Tamiya tape. I don't know. It's been a while since I used Tamiya. I've been out for a while. So that's that. All my miscellaneous parts are also in paint right now. And I shouldn't be touching them because you can see I'm getting black paint on my fingers. We have these, and this is what I'm going to kind of focus on for the moment. These are the two parts for our little Cadillac fins that go on the back here. Actually, I guess this is more of a caddy fin, but they're fins nonetheless that go right here. So they are two parts. They become a hole, as you can see here. We need to put our little clear piece in here. Goes right in this recess. I need to get that off of the tree. It's currently sitting behind me. But as you can see, two pieces. You've got this nice little panel line here that indicates indicates where you're supposed to mask it off. I'm not sure if this is on the studio model itself. There is a color variance. This is more of a mustardy kind of yellow, which I have to mix up, I just realized. But the panel line does not go onto the sides. It's just on the flat surface. So I went with my X-Acto and I kind of cut that groove in there. On there and on there. I'll be coming back in and in thickening that with a microfile, just to have a cohesion on the thruster. So, also, this is going to be fun doing the putty work on the seam because it overlaps a couple of our thrusters here. And that is way off. I'm not sure why that's way off, but it is. These might be keyed to individual sides, and I've got the wrong two pieces together. No, that's where well, for some reason that's off. That should be a square. This is going to bug me. Anyways, that should be a square up there. Might have it in the wrong place. Well, that's better. Should look more like that. So, we need to get our clear piece in. We need to get our LED in. I'll be drilling the backside of the clear piece rather carefully because clear pieces are notoriously brittle or fragile. There was a little piece about right here, a little rectangle that was the indication for the part number. I shouldn't be touching this with fingers that have paint on them, but it was sitting right here, and it was rather scary taking the old nippers and getting that off. I did it very gently and slowly because I didn't want it to crack up into here, and luckily it didn't on either of these guys. So be careful is what I'm saying. Be very careful. Especially when taking it off the tree, I carefully got all the clear parts off the tree. I used a combination of my nippers, and where the end of my nippers would not fit in between the tree and the part, I would go in and use X-Acto blade. So taking those off, drilling the backs out, taking some of our itty bitty SMDs that we got from HDA. What I'm seeing on the on the footage is this is more of a kind of yellowish color. Now, I don't know if that's like a true color, because the area around it is yellow. So the eyes might be playing tricks on me. They might just be white. But I'm gonna dab the tiniest dot of transparent yellow on there just to give it a little more of a cool white than a warm white look. Mounting it in here, gluing these guys together after we scrape some of our lovely black paint off. And I'm not too worried about having to sand over the clear plastic, because I'm gonna do that anyways. I'm gonna sand the part to help light dispersion. So it's not a big deal if I have to sand over it to get rid of this seam. But that is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing that today. We're going to be getting that in there and getting the light attached and gluing these guys together. At least that's the plan. I want to get these guys together. I want to get some putty on these guys. And I don't know if I'll be attaching. We also have to drill a little hole into our recess here. Is this the correct side? It looks like the correct side. Yeah, we'll be. I don't know if we're gonna attach these yet. Just because I think I want to not have this part sitting off here when I have to. Well, I'll be putting the part. I'll be banging it around kind of and having it on this side, and that part will be on the bottom, just to protect our teeny tiny fin. And then we'll be starting to get some of our lights in here. We need a SMD or an LED. I haven't decided which right there. Probably an SMD. We'll have to put our big old lighting strip across here. I still have to do something about the back of this. It has masking tape on it, but I mean, you can see through it. So I'm still going to have to put a rather large piece of not completely opaque plastic on the back side of this. I just don't want you to see in and see a giant lighting strip right here. Also, that lighting strip will help diffuse it. I don't want this to be sourcey. I don't want you to see dot of the lighting strip. The light. So, to mitigate that, that's one of the reasons I sanded the back of this. To mitigate that, the plastic will be in place. We also have to, I don't have any colored lighting strips, so we're going to have to be airbrushing some color onto that lighting strip. We also have to, I might want to do this before I start gluing in lights or hot gluing in lights, is this thing. There is a tiny clear piece that goes in here. Right there. You can see the recess for it. But that hole, I know that hole is not pointing to where I want it to point. There's the, this is the outboard hole. And the outboard hole should be facing forward. I want that to hit the hull. That's not too much of an issue. You just need to kind of re-drill this hole and make sure it's pointing forward. I don't know if the clear part's going to fit in there very well after I do this editing. We'll have to see. We might not be able to use it. That's not a huge deal. We can take some canopy glue and just put a little dot in there, and that will act as a lens, if I want a lens. This is the problem child. And it does look like, it does from this angle look like it's at the appropriate angle. It does look like it's pointing down, but it needs to be at a specific angle. I want this to emulate our pendant light. I know people think that this is pointed at the neck. I'm under the impression that it's pointed at the pendant. my logic behind that is that on the neck, you can see on the torpedo deck, on the top of the torpedo deck, there are two lights. There are two floodlights. One points directly up. The other points at an angle like this and hits the neck and lights the neck. That is what I'm going for. The other point of contention, or I guess my point, is that there's no way that you can light that pendant light. Unless the Enterprise has a giant spotlight constantly floating on the side of the secondary hull, there's no way that that's going to light up, and I want it to light up. I've done this on my other two refit builds, so we're gonna do it again. The one light that I am not going to have is the light that's lighting up this right here. That's the one omission on this build. I didn't want to do Raytheon. I never like Raytheon. My eye can tell that it's light coming from the inside and shining through the plastic, no matter how good of a job you do. And I've seen some excellent Raytheon lighters out there. Boyd from TrekWorks has done excellent Raytheon lighting. But my eye can still see and can still tell it's not light hitting the surface. It's light that's coming from the back. And I just don't like that. It's like really bad CGI in movies. It's just my eyes just like, yeah, no, that's not real. So that's an omission. I was going to play Twister here and get this part. I was going to see if I could do anything about that vis-a-vis these fins. Like maybe mount an SMD somewhere in here, drill a hole at an angle so that the light will flood up and hit this area. Firstly, I don't think I could get the correct oval hole to produce the correct oval light and in the exact area I want it. The other thing is that's only going to light the inboard side. Those fin or outboard side. I'm sorry. That's only going to light the outboard side, not the inboard side. We know where things are, so you're not gonna have that on this side. And it very clearly in the movie it is on these. So that's our omission for this build, at least light-wise. So I'm going to get to work on these guys right now. I will be back and show you what we've got going on. Be back in a second. There, we have some of our clear trees out here. These are two of the same tree. It's just a tree repeated, which is very nice. I'm going to point out, I'm going to say some nice things about polar lights. A couple of nice things. So, this right here, and this right here, these two pieces, they're tiny. So let me get the X-Acto. That little guy, and that little guy. Those are our thruster lights. That is our warp crystal light. And where are they? Oh, they're there. These are for our beauty lights that go along the outboard grill. We have those repeated on this piece. See, our crystal, because we do need two crystals, our thrusters and our I guess grill beauty light. I'm not sure what officially to call it. That is awesome, by the way. It is awesome that if I screw one of these up, I have another. Same thing with these two. You only need two of these. These, on the other hand, are a bit of a different story. We have them on the tree, and they are connected on either side of this top ring. You will see that top ring. So I had to be very careful when removing this from the tree not to put any divots into the top ring here. I'm also going to sand, because I have to take these off, and you will notice that they were taken off a tree. I'm going to just take some sandpaper to the very top ring here so that it it'll all look kind of the same. I don't think this ring goes into the recess because you put them in from the top. So it will be, the top, that ring will be flush with the top of the nacelle. At least that's what I'm thinking, looking at the instructions and looking at the piece. The nice thing about this is that it's got a very large connection point. Also, it's got a nice little hole started for me, or divot started for me, when I drill in here, because I'm going to put a 2mm blue LED on the back side of this. So we've already got a start on getting that in there. And again, I will be using my my pin vise and going nice and slow as to not shatter this fragile plastic. So just thought I'd point that out before I get into it. Also, I'm using the 0402s to light up the tiny little thrusters. So once I get more done, I will be back. Just needed to point that out, or wanted to. Be back in a flash. Alright, well, we have our clear piece installed and our LED installed, our 0402. A big old drop of super glue. Let's see. A lot of super glue in there. I just don't want these, I don't want to accidentally yank these wires and pull out that LED. These LEDs are very microscopic, and there's very, 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 very even more microscopic solder holding them onto the wires. So be very careful when handling these kind of LEDs. I actually grip them firmly by the wires instead of holding them by the LED. Never hold them by the LED. You could literally do this and unsolder them. So be careful. We got that on the back. We got our clear piece in. Here is one complete. Well, one together, not complete. That's what that looks like. We still have a bunch of work to do. Unfortunately, these clear pieces don't actually fill in these holes very well, so we're going to have to do something about that. We're also going to have to fill in a huge gap here, a little bit of gappage here and back here. But let's see if we can't light this up real quick. Show you what it looks like. Where is the other wire? Oh no, getting wires confused, never a good thing. Alright. Here we go. It's all lit up. I decided to actually paint the outside of these yellow rather than the inside. So yeah, looks pretty nice. You can see we do have a lot of work to do around those. You can see it doesn't fit very well, or that's too small. That back one's too small. You can actually see into it. So yeah, we're gonna have to fix that. But that is what it looks like completed. I'm not too worried about light coming out of there because this is going to be on the side of the ship, so hopefully that won't light leak. Otherwise I can go in there with a dab of paint and paint the back side of it. But it's not a bright light, and it's pointing forward. So there we go. I'm going to continue on and get this one all assembled, and then we'll be done with these guys. Alright guys, I've got my little fins here done to the point where I need to get some primer on to see what I need to address also. But yeah, puttied. Got my lines carved in there, got my lines carved in here. And I just need to mask off these little thrusters here, and then I'll put some gray primer on this stuff. Also, I got these things drilled out. I actually went in with my knurling bit here on my Dremel very carefully, and kind of drilled down to the depth I wanted, and then went back with a 2 millimeter bit on my pin vise here and cut our holes out for our LEDs, our little 2 mils, and they just slide right in there like so. And let's get that battery over here. Light up fairly well. You can see, be nice and bright. Camera's blowing it out, but it looks good in person. So I still need to paint the little bezel here around the edge, around this blue half sphere. Needs to be a silver. So I'll just take my silver Sharpie and Sharpie it up. And on the back side, I'm going to do light blocking, probably with black. I also sanded off these two little guys right here. I think we're going to have to build a light box for this area because I don't want the light to bleed anywhere else. So that is where we're at for the moment. I'm going to primer these and we'll see what we can see. Be back in a second. Hey guys, well, I got all my lights wired up that I need. I have my my strips are over in paint right now. They're getting purpleized. They are drying. They are super wet. I just airbrushed them. But we have these amber LEDs, which will be going right about there for our beauty light that goes along the outside edge of this. So that'll be there. I have my blue lights for my crystals, and they'll just go up into our crystal like so. These are cut short, really short, like really short, because what I'm going to do is when I get my strip in there, I already know the placement of my strip. I'm placing my strip right here along this kind of ledge right here. When I get that in, I'm going to solder this to the front of it because these are the two lights we'll need for our warp circuit, and that's it. Just this and the grill. And then our warp circuit will be done. Our blinker circuit's just going to be one. It's just going to be a little tiny LED I'm going to mount in there. And then our beauty lights circuit, which are these guys up here, and then our little fins where our thrusters are mounted. I still need to drill that hole. I've been working on those guys. I got some primer on them. And I can see some areas where I still need to mess with it. I can still see that seam. If I turn it like that, you can kind of see it underneath those. There's a little shadow of it, and I want that shadow gone. Same thing up there. You can see it better up there. You can see that seam. This is the better one of the two. And I do need to mount these before I get all this together because I need to tie this in to the other beauty lights. The two up at the front. This is a little worse here. As you can see, it's got some snagglepuss going on down there. And you can really see the seam. If I turn it like that, yeah, you can really see that. Kind of the same up front. It's not as bad up front, but yeah, that has to be addressed. So we still have to do that. I have been playing with my grills. My grills are in paint right now. I'm letting those dry. I have to put a few more coats of black on those, some jet black, before they're fully light blocked. Of course, I'll be testing them. But the beauty lights up here, I've been trying those. I cannot use the kit split part, which is this little clear part, because that nub, I don't know if you can see it, it is angled. And it is angled horribly wrong. It's angled right for the kit, but not for where I want the light to go. And that's all four of them. So I re-drilled all the holes. And now I'm trying to mount these lights. I put a little bit of... I wanted a lens so that I have something to mount a little bit of masking to and also protect that tiny tiny LED behind there. So all I did there was to take some relatively clear plastic, cut out a little notch there, the size I needed, and I glued that in place. Unfortunately, this isn't going very well. Still not at the right angle. I'm going to take this all apart, and I'm getting to that lovely, lovely frustrated point with these. And I know from past experiences that is where I have to quit. Otherwise, all things get worse. When you're frustrated, stop what you're doing. These are all tangled. Look at that. Stop what you're doing. Take a breath. Take time. Do something else. Come back with a fresh mind, a fresh attitude. And that's what I'm going to have to do. And that is actually, we're going to call it for this week. It doesn't look like we got a ton done, you guys, but it's all preparation for the final showdown. And there's painting involved, and it always takes time to dry. So, anyways, next week we'll be doing more of these, hopefully getting a lot farther than this. So, I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to not do that. I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank all my old subs, all my new subs. You guys are totally rad. And until next time, you guys take care.